I want to turn now to CBS News security analyst and former assistant director of the FBI, Ron Hosko. He joins us from our Washington bureau. So, Ron, there's a new manhunt underway for the suspect that drove the van through the crowd in Barcelona. What's your sense? What's next?
Well, law enforcement and the intelligence services there across Europe will be trying to exploit his digital footprint, his electronic footprint, first to track him down, ideally to corner him and to get his safe capture before he potentially does additional harm. Today, we haven't heard an understanding or clear understanding of what the law enforcement belief is in his ultimate intent. Is it martyrdom? And if so, is it, like we see domestically here from time to time, suicide by cop? So he does something else significant. Does he carjack another vehicle and try to go on one of these mad driving sprees to kill additional people? Does he try to force a final confrontation with law enforcement? So that part we don't know. Or is it just true flight? And I know there's been some commentary that the Spaniards have rolled up this terror network. My fear is that they haven't, that they still don't know the boundaries of it, the total number of participants. There's a lot of work to be done. This, in my mind, is still a very fresh event and an ongoing investigation, and much more to do to determine, does he have a network that extends into France, into Germany, somewhere else in Europe, where somebody's going to take him in and try to conceal him from police or try to assist him in some way for, again, something more nefarious yet to come.
And in fact, Ron, there's evidence that shows that this might be part of a larger plot, possibly involving explosives. How do you think investigators will tackle the threat if this is, in fact, a larger terror cell?
Well, they really have to, concentrate efforts in the near term. And I think their work was certainly made harder. Look, in my estimation, it could be that Spanish law enforcement missed connecting some dots here. It does sound like there's reporting that the CIA passed intelligence about this location as a particular target. We don't know the details of that intelligence information that was passed off, but did it include names? Did it include attack methodologies? Did the Spanish law enforcement and intelligence services fail to do something that they should have done? The other potential failure here, and again, this is all 20/20 hindsight and trying to speculate as to what they had or didn't, is they had a house basically collapse from an explosion that was initially reportedly characterized as a gas leak explosion. That does happen. But certainly there were clues, like what was found in the debris, that could have been passed to law enforcement, and now they're left sifting through that collapsed residence, looking for clues that have been damaged by the explosion. Certainly there's more evidence to be had from that house, whether they'll be able to recover DNA or fingerprints or documents or electronics that may point them to the bigger network. That work has to be done expeditiously to look for those sorts of clues and piece them together to tell them what else they may have missed.
Yeah, many wondering there should be a wealth of clues inside that home. When you talk about a terror cell, Ron, what's the difference between a terror cell and just a bunch of people getting together conspiring?
Yeah, I think it is there a connectivity to the ultimate source of terror inspiration, to ISIS, to Al-Qaeda? Or is this just a bunch of ne'er-do-wells who may have associated because they are friends and neighbors and they're involved in lower-level crime? We have yet to understand the scope of this cell. Certainly, when you look at the potential damage from what the contents were of this house that exploded last week, with multiple propane tanks. What else was in there? What other terror indicia are there? Were there complex triggering devices? Were there other more complicated explosives? If so, where did they come from? So the question to me is, was this just a new idea by a small group of people with very little experience? And thank God for the little bit of experience that caused that house to explode and maybe take a more deadly situation off of the chessboard here. Or was there some real expertise? Is there evidence that they have meaningful and deeper terror ties to ISIS, to AQ, to Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, across North Africa, that could have done much greater harm? What were the ultimate plans here? How complicated? How long has this been ongoing? All those questions have yet to be answered. You
mentioned earlier that U.S. intelligence warned Spanish authorities of a possible threat prior to this deadly attack. And they said here that the warning was, quote, non-specific. What do you make of that? And could this have really been prevented?
Post 9/11, the reality is that law enforcement, certainly here domestically, the intelligence services have been besieged by intelligence, little bits and pieces that you have to try to see if they add together and fit together to give you something where you can put defensive measures in place, target specific people, start to conduct a meaningful investigation around specific people or locations to defend and to protect. But so often, because of the volume of intelligence that is now exchanged internationally in huge volumes every day, there is a literal flood. And so it is a challenge for law enforcement and for the intelligence community to piece that all together and weave it into something that's meaningful before we warn the public, before we do something overt, before we shut down streets or buildings or countries. And so it is a complex matter. The specifics we don't know yet, and it could well be that the Spanish did not have anything meaningful to act or to change or to prevent this one attack. But then the question still remains, when you add it together with other pieces, what does it mean today and what will it mean tomorrow?
Ron Hosko. Ron, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.